Res Gestae Divi Augusta is the funerary inscription of the first Roman emperor, Augustus, giving a first-person record of his life and accomplishments. The Res Gestae is especially significant because it gives an insight into the image Augustus portrayed to the Roman people. Various inscriptions of the Res Gestae have been found scattered across the former Roman Empire. The inscription itself is a monument to the establishment of the Julio-Claudian dynasty that was to follow Augustus. Structure of the text. The text consists of a short introduction, 35 body paragraphs, and a posthumous addendum. These paragraphs are conventionally grouped in 4 sections: political career, public benefactions, military accomplishments, and a political statement. The first section is concerned with Augustus' political career. It records the offices and political honors that he held. Augustus also lists numerous offices he refused to take and privileges he refused to be awarded. The second section lists Augustus' donations of money, land and grain to the citizens of Italy and his soldiers, as well as the public works and gladiatorial spectacles that he commissioned. The text is careful to point out that all this was paid for out of Augustus' own funds. The third section describes his military deeds and how he established alliances with other nations during his reign. Finally, the fourth section consists of a statement of the Romans' approval for the reign and deeds of Augustus. The appendix is written in the third person, and likely not by Augustus himself. It summarizes the entire text, and lists various buildings he renovated or constructed. It states that Augustus spent 600 million silver denarii from his own funds during his reign on public projects. Ancient currencies cannot be reliably converted into modern equivalents, but it is clearly more than anyone else in the empire could afford. The annual expenses of the Roman state during the reign of Augustus are unknown, but modern authors estimate 200,000 - 300,000 pounds of silver annually. History. According to the text, it was written just before Augustus' death in AD 14. But it was probably written years earlier and likely went through many revisions. Augustus left the text with his will, which instructed the Senate to set up to the inscriptions. The original, which has not survived, was engraved upon a pair of bronze pillars and placed in front of Augustus' mausoleum. Many copies of the text were made and carved in stone on monuments or temples throughout the Roman Empire, some of which have survived, most notably almost a full copy, written in the original Latin, and a Greek translation was preserved on a temple to Augustus in Ancyra. Others have been found at Apollonia and Antioch, both in Pisidia. By its very nature, the Res Gestae is propaganda for the principate that Augustus instituted. It tends to gloss over the events between the assassination of Augustus' adoptive father Julius Caesar and the victory at Actium, when his foothold on power was finally undisputed. Augustus' enemies are never mentioned by name. Caesar's murderers Brutus and Cassius are called simply, "those who killed my father." Mark Antony and Sextus Pompeius, Augustus' opponents in the East, remain equally anonymous. The former is, "he with whom I fought the war," while the latter is merely a pirate. Likewise, the text fails to mention Augustus or Imperium Maius and his exceptional tribunicial powers. Often quoted is Augustus' official position on his government. "From that time I surpassed all others in influence. Yet my official powers were no greater than those of my colleague in office." This is in keeping with a reign that promoted itself from the beginning as a restoration of the old republic. The Res Gestae was a unique public relations move for the first emperor of the Roman Empire, whose political career was in many ways experimental. If their frequent uses, history, by later historians who characterized Augustus a rule according to categories he himself constructed in the Res Gestae is any indication, it is a rather successful piece of propaganda. On the other hand, it would be absurd to overlook the usefulness to historians of what is essentially a first-person account of his rule.